Hello. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here at the Maxon booth on the IBC 2014. We've got a great lineup of presenters here. And this one is not only a good friend of mine, he's also an incredible artist doing a lot of stuff for example, for Apple, BMW, Wacom, and he works for many companies. And he's a freelancer working with 3 other guys, I think. 4 other guys, okay. There are 5 guys doing incredible stuff, and he's going to show you some of that, what he's doing here at our booth, and what he's done with Cinema 4D. So enjoy Mr. Robert Hranitzky.
Good morning, everyone. Or actually, good, is it? It is 1, it's good afternoon actually now. So good afternoon, everyone. Hello? Anyone here? Show me some love. Hello, everyone. Yes, thank you. It's my last presentation, unfortunately, at IBC 2014, but thank you, Maxon, for inviting me out. We had some fun yesterday and the day before, but fear not, the 3rd day usually is the best presentation because everything is smooth. So we're going to have a lot of fun. So as Glenn already said, work as a motion graphics designer based in Munich, having a lot of fun doing what I love most. And also hello Internet, by the way, people watching the stream. Speaking of Internet, you can follow me on Twitter at HR Animation, or just visit my website. And to give you a little head start on what we've been up to the last couple of years in terms of our work, I would like to quickly run my, my show reel to you and show you that. So yeah, the editing was done by my friend Michael Münch from Münch Films in Frankfurt, and the music is from Massive Music in Amsterdam. So they're based right here, and they're very, very good guys. They do awesome music for commercials and the likes. And as you've seen, there's a lot of things happening in this reel, and of course not all was done just by myself, since we have a shared studio in Munich. So we have a little space, actually it's a pretty big space, and I'm sharing it with not just friends but also colleagues, and each one has different strengths, and we just collaborate together or work individually depending on scale and size of projects. And to give you an idea of how it looks like and how we like to spend most of the day, I have a couple of shots on how it looks like. We get inspired by, of course, Pixar movies. We love Star Wars. Probably some of you can relate to that on how we got into this whole industry. So we try to make it as comfortable as possible, since we spend long hours there working, doing what we love. So we try to make it look nice. So most of us work on the Mac, but Daniel works on the PC, but we still like him, so it's all good. We're all friends. So this is our setup, and this is where I spend most of the day working. So what I'm going to show you today are a couple of exciting projects, and we'd like to start with this one here. We just finished this actually 2 weeks ago, and it's for a company called Mission. They produce high-quality stereo, surround, speakers, and one of their latest products is a product called AERO. And for this product, we were called up by an agency called Great Fridays, based in London, and they designed the device, and they asked us to come up with a good, nice way of showing the device, the features, and also doing a 3D animation. And I worked with this on this project with Akira. And the thing was, the project was still in development physically. The design was ready, so we were working on the trailer while the project or the product is being finished, so you could have a launch by the date when the product is launched. When the product is finished, you could have everything ready, so you don't have to wait for the product to be finished to be able to photograph it and film it. And also we wanted to be very close to the product, like in a macro type of situation, and we also wanted to build the product from the inside out, like Transformers movie, where everything just sort of develops itself. And for this, of course, you cannot use a practical model, so we had to visualize this first. So what happens is, we develop the idea, then we get the 3D data, and the 3D data normally is super large. It's like CAD data, way too many information in there, like every bolt, every cable, everything is in there. It's just too much, so we need to reduce it a little bit to make it work properly, because the model was like 2 or 3 gigabytes big. And we wanted to use Sketch and Tune as well. And let me show you what we did for this. First, we went to Moi to clean up the model, to basically get rid of everything that you don't need, to make it a nice little handy model that you can use very well in Cinema 4D. And then before going into texture or anything, we had a setup made up in Sketch and Tune to actually create storyboards. And we wanted to create storyboards to convey the idea of what we wanted to do, not by using actual rendered files, but by using drawings. And of course, it would be a little bit hard to draw something like this, and also would take a lot of time. So we established a Sketch and Tune setup that allows us to render things like this between 30, actually what was it, I think 15 and 45 seconds each frame. So it's a quick output, although you keep the sketch look. Because why do you want to keep the sketch look? You don't want to be too precise when presenting an idea to the client. Because if you're too precise, the nitpicking will start, like, oh, well, this pixel, and this is too thin, and this is too thick, and this color, blah, blah, blah. You don't want this at this early stage. You just want to communicate the idea. And that's what we did, using Sketch and Tune to create something that looks like Sketch, but actually is real 3D. And we already try to make setups as close as possible so we can use them later on in the finished or in the further project. So you'll see that the device is building itself, the aluminum enclosure is wrapping itself around it, and this shot specifically is one of the key shots because it shows one of the key features, which is the 3D effect that you can use, powered by sonic emotion. So we wanted to have ultrasonic waves come out from the middle and bounce off the walls. And we used some special techniques to visualize that. So what happens next once the client approved that? We create style frames. And we wanted to do something that's very mysterious, not show like how a mainboard looks like or metal looks like. We wanted to be a little bit more abstract. So we used like a black paint on the device. So we sent this off. We also wanted to be very close to the product and have a very shallow depth of field to really focus the attention of the viewer where he's looking at. And also notice a nice little bokeh effect. I just love that. Bokeh is just... And also we used some Photoshop sketches. So this is like a Photoshop painting that I quickly did because not everything was ready while we already did the style frames. So we started to work in parallel. So Akira was doing the 3D part, while I already started to do the 2D animation and After Effects on how the text will be placed on the trailer. So this was I think not used eventually, but we tried. But this was used. We had to develop icons for the different features because not every, of course, there's an icon for Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and iPod, but there's not an icon for aux or optical. So we came up with different variations of how this can be visualized. Of course, everything animated on top in After Effects at the end. So this is the key shot I was mentioning. So we had to use a few things, and we knew that although the client was super cool to work with, there might be some changes along the project, like maybe the lines too thick or too thin, or how do you visualize this, and maybe they wanted to have color changes. So the idea was to make it really simple, and sometimes to make something really simple is really hard, as you all know. So how can you visualize a room? So the idea was just to take a couch, create a TV, a little cupboard where you put your device on, and then actually just have 4 walls where you can see the radio waves, or actually the sound waves reflect. So we did this in 3D, so this was modeled in Cinema 4D and everything, but the actual rendering took place in After Effects. And you might be thinking like, hang on, this is 3D, so how can you render this in After Effects? So we used a technology called Cineware. Sorry, that was a long party last night. So we use Cineware. Who knows Cineware? Okay. Do you know Cineware, Michael? Oh, you know it. Thank you. Anyone who doesn't know it, fear not. I will explain you a little bit. So we all know Cinema 4D. It's a fantastic 3D application. We all know After Effects for compositing motion graphics. But the two haven't always been very linked in a very strong way. But now it's even stronger. Let me show you how. If you go to After Effects, you can see the shot that I just talked about. And if you scroll down, you will see right here that we have a C4D layer. So what does that mean? C4D layer in After Effects? It's rendering in After Effects. So in the past, you would have to take a C4D file in Cinema 4D, render out in the QuickTime, or ideally a PNG sequence or any other TIFF sequence, import it back into After Effects, work with it. Client, we all know clients, okay? Client comes in and says, well, it's cool, but I would like to have this changed. So you go back to Cinema, render it again, replace footage, or import it again. So this, of course, this is still a valid workflow, but now you can just take a C4D file, and let me just solo that, and work with this. And now this looks a little bit weird because it's using the software default preview just to show you a draft. But you can go back and say, I would like to see the standard quality, and this will actually go back behind the scenes and render a frame for you, actually invisibly for you, behind the scenes, and transfer this frame from Cinema 4D render engine into After Effects. So you can just see like the simple shapes that are coming in, and you might be wondering, why did I hide those? Well, as you can see, it takes a couple of seconds to render. It's not too long, but sometimes things take longer, like 1 minute, 2 minutes, maybe 10 minutes per frame, which still is fast, but you don't want to wait 10 minutes per frame for something to see. So what can you do? Well, you can do a preview, render it as a proxy or as a RAM preview, and put it back in and hide the Cinema 4D layer. You still have the benefit of going back, switching it on, and then re-rendering. But what else can you do? Well, let me just show you the file again. I'm just going to drag it into a new file. Okay, so we have the animation right here, so you can preview that. And again, I can show you the standard look. So this looks much better. So this is the outline that we also use to have the outlines. But if you look closely, you can also extract Cinema 4D data. And if I click that extract button, look what happens. It extracts the cameras, lights, if I would have lights. I don't have lights in here. And also null objects. And those null objects are named in German, which is left, right, front, and I think floor, which help me to create layers in this room. Because this room basically is built in After Effects. So for example, if the client comes back and says, well, I like it, but I don't know, maybe the color of the walls is off, or I would like to have something else on the walls going, then let me see if I can find it. So this is the wall on the right, and I can just go ahead and make it a different shade, make it a little bit brighter, and it's super easy because it's a 3D layer. But it's taking the camera that Akira animated in Cinema 4D. So it's a very, very nice, powerful workflow. And of course, this is not the final version because, yes, the client came back and says, well, the lines are cool as they are, but the glow is too strong. I want to have it reduced, so we took down the glow, but we could render it really quickly because it was very easy to just do this in After Effects. So this is the power of using both tools. Let me just quickly show you what we used to create a couple of more looks. As you might be wondering, how do we come up with this chromatic aberrations on the edges? It's one of my favorite tips. What happens with 3D renderings is that they are way too clean. It's like super precise, and this might be nice, but we are all used to look through or to look at pictures that come from a camera. And there's no camera that is as perfect as a render engine, no matter how expensive it is. So you have those little imperfections. And actually, it's funny because you kind of make the picture a little bit worse than it's originally. So you make it bad just to make it better. Okay, makes sense? So the little imperfections make it perfect. And this is that little fringe that you can see here, for example. So this just adds this little aberration that you have on the sides. It's not so super sharp, but it's of course still sharp. We use for that Sapphire Warp Chroma from the Sapphire collection. It's very easy because you can actually specify on how you want to have this. Of course, this will be a little bit too strong, but you can also use, for example, Sapphire Grain or any other grain. I use that because it's very fast to have this little grain on transparent objects or especially gradients, not to have any banding, for example. But it also gives you this little touch of film grain. Just a little bit. I think I use a value of, let me see, 0.02, so very low values for the color amplitude. So this is how that was done. And I'm not finished here with Cineware because I have a little bit more to show you with regards to Cineware. So everything was cool that I showed you right now, but there's actually more to Cineware than what you think, because there's a new version of Cineware coming out, Cineware 2.0. It will be the next version of After Effects, and it has a few benefits. So let me again show you what you can do. This is the C4D layer. I drag it in there, and I'll start a little bit more from the start, so you actually get a better idea of what Cineware can do. And then I will walk you through some of the new features of Cineware 2.0. So we have the C4D layer here, and of course I can just RAM preview that, so you will see what is happening. We have some rust going down the metal. It's actually revealing the shiny metal texture that is underneath it. And of course the numbers will spin around. So you can render this, but it still looks a little bit imperfect, I would say. So you can go back, and in Cineware you can change it to standard. And standard will give you the full quality render, which is nice. So you can check that. Let's go back to software. And a couple of tips. You should, if you really just want to navigate around in your scene, you should click on no textures and shader, and also no pre-calc, and keep textures in RAM, because this will allow you to navigate much, much faster within Cineware. But how can you navigate? You don't have a camera. So let's check out the file in its original format. Let's go to Start, hit Command E, and this will open up Cinema 4D Studio R16, the latest version. And here's the latest thing. If you have the latest version of After Effects that's to be released, a new Cinema Lite version will be included, which will be based on R16, which also means that you have the benefits of the new reflectance feature, which is great for creating materials in a new way. But also, if you have like a full version of R16 in the Studio Bundle, for example, you can specify that to render, so you don't have to use the Lite version. But this is how the scene looks like. I can render this as well on this here. It uses already the reflectance, so you can see it looks like silver or something with scratches and so on. The rust has come off already. There's no camera in there, as you can see. There's a couple of lights, but no camera. Not a fancy animation, just the rust coming down and all the numbers spinning around. So again, no camera. Going back to After Effects, I can choose my composition and go ahead to new camera, choose a wide angle lens because I want to see a lot. And now I get this. Doesn't affect 2D layers. Of course, this is actually treated as a 2D layer, but with Cineware integrated, it can actually interact with the camera. So let's do that. I do that. I place the camera right here, but nothing happens. Nothing changes, because I have to go back to my Cineware effect. And now I can choose which camera I would like to use. So you have the choice between the Cinema 4D camera. We don't have one. So that's why it's showing the default view. But if I choose the comp camera, this is what happens. Where am I? Well, After Effects uses a different 3D space than Cinema. 000 is actually in the top left, whereas in Cinema it's in the middle. Because of this, there's this feature built in which allows you to have a centered comp camera which will jump into the middle, which will allow you to start navigating and animating in 3D much, much easier than without this feature. So what can you do? You can use the C key to toggle between the camera modes. So for example, you can go in and you can zoom in and you can see how responsive that is. So there's feature 2 actually, because a lot of Cineware has been rewritten to make it even more responsive and intuitive to navigate. So you can navigate, and again, I'm using After Effects to navigate in 3D space using a 3D object. So I don't know, something like this. Quickly create a keyframe. I don't know, let's do a 50 frame animation. go really close, turn around a little bit like this. Okay, go back, so actually you can scrub, and let's hit N and RAM preview. There's this very, very easy, quick way of animating 3D objects in After Effects that are coming from Cinema 4D, which is totally crazy. So if that doesn't blow your mind yet, there's a little bit more that I can show you. So far so good. But how can we make it really good, like with depth of field and all the good stuff? Let's check out how it looks like when we go to the effect controls and check out the standard quality on the render. So this looks nice. Okay, so far so good. You can also see we have a floor. The floor is actually a layer in Cinema 4D. So this is the floor. And this is my 2013. Actually, I should recall it to make it 2014, but doesn't matter. So this is on a layer. You can use layer hierarchies to manage objects in Cinema 4D. So this layer is blue. So I can show you that. Hang on, if I find my right click. Layer manager, you see, logo is on the blue layer. So how can I use this? Well, if I go back to After Effects, you will see that you have the option to use layers. You can set layers, but the good thing now is a new feature is that you have a default layer. Because previously, if you had an object that was not set on a layer, there was no way to toggle it on and off because it was the default layer. But now, since we have the default layer, you can just say, I would like to have the default layer off, which is the floor. And the floor is gone, and now you can composite in a different background, or you can have something intersect. You could, put something under the topography. So that's a very good thing to do intersections. But how can you do depth of field? All right, let me show you this. You see the camera, which is done in After Effects, and you can see that little setting here, which is comp camera into Cinema 4D, or Cinema 4D scene data into After Effects. That's what I did previously. But now we do the other way around. Now we put the camera that we created in After Effects into Cinema 4D. So if I click on Merge, it tells me the After Effects camera was merged into the Cinema 4D project, which is great. And we go back to Cinema 4D, and then we see nothing, no camera. Why? Because the file was overwritten from within Cineware in After Effects. So what do I have to do? I close this file. I don't save it in Cinema 4D, of course. Again, I can go back to After Effects to make sure I launch the original file. And now I can see I have the After Effects camera in Cinema 4D. I can activate the camera, and now you will see it. And of course, you have the exact same animation. All the keyframes are baked, obviously, because you want to make sure that it stays with the same animation. But now I can go in, and now I can set up the focus point of the camera to be able to use the depth of field effect. So for this, I'm going to choose the top view, and let me navigate out a little bit, and to show you how you can set this up. Go to the camera, go to the focus distance and set it to, I don't know, 120 maybe. Oh, wow, I didn't know that value. It's not like I did it 100 times before. So maybe this is 250, not 25,000, 250. And then you specify the range that you want to have blurred. So how can you check this out? Well, you have to go to multipass or to render settings first. You go to multipass and you find all of these settings. Let me just push this over so you can see it better. Okay, so you have all these settings. And I'm almost tempted to say that multipass was invented because of clients. Because there's always this client that says, my logo is not shiny enough. And if you want to do that without re-rendering the 3D logo, you can use the multipass way of working just by using for example, the reflection layer to add it on top in After Effects or Photoshop if it's a still, and to increase its transparency, or use curves to add a little bit more specular, for example, or reflection, or whatever you want to do. I'm not going to do this for this one. I'm just going to add the depth layer, which is here already. And the depth layer allows me to actually control the depth of field. So let me render this picture in Cinema 4D really quickly. And go to Layer, and then go to Single Pass. And I'm going to activate Depth. And this is what the depth layer is. It gives you visual information on depth by using grayscale images or grayscale values. So white is very far in the background. Black is very close to the camera. So if I would film you guys, Jason would be like all white outline, and the gentleman with the hat would be like a black outline, and something in between would be gray. So this is like the depth information, and you can use this depth information to actually create a depth of field. So how can you use this information in Cineware? Let me go back. Actually, let me just save this file, of course, because I changed the camera details. Nothing changes right here because it's still the same angle. But going into Cinema 4D, I can duplicate this layer, and now watch what happens if you look at the effects panel. I duplicate this layer, and I have a new button, which is called the synchronized layer. So all the Cineware layers are synchronized. This was not happening before. Why is this important? Because if you change something like the camera or something in the Cineware layer, it will be synchronized to all the layers, so they all match. So that's cool. So we can go ahead and let's say we call this depth layer. So this is depth, and I want to specify my Cinema 4D camera for this. So nothing will change really with the view. It's using the Cinema 4D camera, and if I go back to this one, it's also using the Cinema 4D camera because they're synchronized. Makes sense? So how do I get the depth in here? All I have to do is I go to Cinema 4D Multipass, click on the check mark, click on Set Multipass, and now I can choose between any of the specific layers, and of course depth, or I can add all of them if I want to. I'm just going to use depth for this one. Click OK. There you have the depth layer. I can hide this layer because I don't need to see it. I just need to have the information there. Go to my start document, go to my effects, and my favorite effect for depth of field is Frischluft depth of field. Frischluft is fresh air. It's developed by a German guy who lives in Munich now, a friend of mine in the meantime. A really cool guy. A little bit nerdy, but really cool. I mean, to program this, I mean, he is obsessed with it. This is physically correct depth of field with, accurate bokeh, and you know what bokeh is? Who doesn't know what bokeh is? Show me hands. Okay. We're honest here. I'm not going to tell anyone. I'm not going to post it on Facebook or so no one's going to know. But after this demo, you will know what bokeh is. So bokeh is, let's take a DSLR camera and you focus on a Christmas tree, right? Christmas is coming up, only about 2 months to go, so get your presents ready. Maybe, I don't know, Cinema 4D or After Effects. So you focus on a Christmas tree. What will happen if you defocus the lights? They will become bigger, right? And that is what it's called bokeh. And this is what makes it look sexy. If you just take an image of a Christmas tree and lay a Gaussian blur on it or a fast blur, what will happen to the lights? It will become smaller. So it's a total opposite. So bokeh looks nice, fast blur doesn't look nice. So physically correct, you need to use fast blur. You don't need to use fast blur, but Frischluft or any other plugin. Actually, there's also a built-in plugin, but I prefer Frischluft because of its physical accuracy. So we select the depth layer, and now all I have to do is crank up the values to, let's say, 13. And this is, for example, bokeh, what's happening. Those little circles, that's the bokeh. And actually, you can go in and you can go into the iris and define how many facets you want to have, because this is how many facets your camera iris would have. So, for example, if you use 6 and you don't have any rounding, so let's make it 0.1 or 0 for that matter, you will see that that hexagonal shape there that you all love. So what can we do with this? Well, I can choose to have the focus on the background, or I can just animate the focus from the front to the end. So everything that is in the background will be out of focus. So why is this cool? It's cool because you are completely flexible, right? You still have the Cinema 4D layer in there that's rendering live, but you can completely change the focus area. So that's one of my most favorite use scenarios for this workflow. And let me show you the final result from this file. Let me go back here to Cineware scenes, and this is what it can look like. All right, awesome. So, any questions? No questions? Okay, so let's close that down. And I have some more to show you, which is a little bit scary now. So sit back. It's actually my first PG warning that I have in the presentation. It's for basically brief glimpses of nudity, but also for awesome render quality. I don't know who has seen this image. It's made the rounds in the community. It was not done by me, so I have to give credit to Daniel and Phil, who are the artists doing this. But since Daniel is sitting next to me, I had the fun and privilege of looking at this spooky character for about half a year. So every morning I come in, I see that, and it's like, okay. So, but I also can talk about it because I witnessed the making of, and also gave some guidance in terms of what do you think of this and what do you think of that. So it's a tribute to the Windowlicker music video from Aphex Twin, directed by famous director Chris Cunningham. And maybe you recognize this this character. Yes, it's spooky. So it's a 3D rendering created with Cinema 4D, and the artists were Daniel Henyes and Phil Amelung. So how was this created? Well, it was initially sculpted in ZBrush and then taken into Cinema 4D for the rest. So all the texturing and everything was done in Cinema 4D, but rendered with Arnold. So Arnold is a new bridge that allows you to use Arnold within Cinema 4D, and it's a very, very nice render engine used for films like Gravity, for example. It's well known for its photorealistic results and fast render times. So people ask me, how did these guys do this? Well, it's as simple as drawing and all. Well, you do like 2 circles, and then you just draw the rest. It's basically the same with this fancy character. There's a little bit more to it, but first you need to have references on how does the character look like. Well, it's a bit difficult to find because I think the music video is from 1998, if I'm not mistaken. So HD was like way in the future. So it's difficult to find good quality images or references. And we have this booklet from Chris Cunningham, or this DVD actually, which has this music video on it as well. And in this booklet you have some behind the scenes pictures from this rubber mask that the girl was wearing, and it is very spooky. But this is all the image, all the visual reference that you can get. So the guys had to use only this to come up with a super high quality render. So Phil started with sculpting in ZBrush out of nothing. He just basically modeled this character. Like, you cannot really make it out on the left, but on the right you can already kind of see where this is going. And he was projecting the texture on it just to see on how close he gets. So this is a very early stage. Just placeholder hair and the flowers, it's just placeholders right there. He had a lot of fun doing this. Of course, different hairstyles, very spooky. So it was good that they finished it because I'm done looking at it, to be honest, although it's super nice. But it creeps you out. So, light matching. Daniel went into Cinema 4D while Phil was still sculpting it, and used the model in Cinema 4D and used the background plane with a projected image of the original sequence, and wanted to match the light as close as possible because he wanted to use Cinema 4D light, or actually in HDR, to light the scene. And he used a tool called HDR Light Studio to precisely set up the light, where the light is coming from and where the shadows have to go to. So obviously the shadows are going to the right, so the light must have come from the top left. So you can see that it's pretty close here, but for the final version it was even closer, so he perfectly nailed it. And this HDR was then used as for the main light source in the scene. Let me show you some of the details that were used or that were in the model, and it's actually it's very fascinating to see that even the thumb fingerprint is actual polygon and not just texture. So this is super high res. And then while the sculpting part was in the works, Daniel was continuing with the shading part to work on the shaded texture for the skin, and he was using a lot of references, a lot of tests. This is a close-up of the teeth. So can you believe that for like 2 weeks we just looked at each other's teeth like, so what do you notice on the teeth? Like, how does it look like when color passes through? And it's one of the things that I love to say on presentations, that don't worry so much about technology, but learn to see things. It's what I learned when you're drawing in design school. To draw, it's not about to draw, but to see, because you have to kind of understand what you try to replicate, I always say you need to touch it, you need to kiss it, you need to eat it to digest it, you need to know it, then you can replicate it. If you just like, yeah, I want to build, you have to focus on how does the gum look like and the teeth and everything. And then when you understand that, you can start building it. So, how does skin look like? On light and all the little speckles, and the hair is still placeholder hair, it's Cinema 4D hair for the beard, but the skin was coming to a good stage. Also, they bought some flowers for the hair, and again, they've been refined a little bit, but amazing detail there as well. And here you can see some bit more info about how much hair there is actually on this character. So although it's a girl, it still has hair, like everywhere. Well, not like as you think, but like little peach fuzz, it's called. Like this very tiny little hair that you can't really see from a normal distance, but if you look really close, you have this fine hair. But of course, the beard, which not every girl has, and of course the hair. So the big hair is red, the peach fuzz is white, and the eyelids are purple. So this is all hair. And we went in and for texture and shading, a lot of research went in, and Daniel was really crazy about making this super high res and high quality as possible. So this is the texture for just the head. And you might be wondering, how high res is this? Well, what do you think? How much, like, what is the resolution of this? Like 2K, 4K, any? 8? It's a good guess, it's 8.5K. So this is 13%. If I zoom into that, you will see this will zoom for a little while until we reach 100%. So it is pretty high res. And it was very detailed as well. If we go to the next slide, you can see there's a lot of detail, so everything, even the back of the hands, and like a lot of detail. I spared you some of the other things, but everything was there. So this is the back of the hand and also the front of the hand, and this is a texture purchased from Surface Mimic. They have the special technology on how to scan skin, basically. I don't know how they do it, but it's like so high res. If I give you a little bit more of a preview here on how it looks like, you can even make out the fingerprints. So and this is not even 100%. So it's incredibly high res. So all this was used to paint in textures. And again, this image, I looked this up on Pond 5 and bought this image on the full res just for pure research reasons. Just to see how does female hair look like on the body. Like you can make out this very fine detail. Also, how does the bikini look like the stitches and everything, because everything should be replicated as close as possible. So Daniel went in and wanted to go even further and organize the model that was willing to do this pose and be photographed with flashlight, and you can see the reflections here. And of course, you don't want to see reflections because it's you, the artist, that wants to say the light is coming from top left or top right. But since here the light is coming from the middle, it would not fit with the 3D image because the light is coming from top left. So you want to get rid of reflections. So how can you do this? So Daniel found this technique of using cross-polarized photography. So basically, you have a polarized filter on the flash and a polarized filter on the camera. You twist it 90 degrees, and then you get rid of all the reflections. For some of you who have sunglasses with polarization, it's the same principle. So this certain wavelength of light will be filtered out, so there's no reflection at all on this. And a lot of the skin texture was actually used from her to be painted in combination with the other textures that I showed you. So this is actually the same as having a diffused texture. So the photograph was like a diffused photograph. And then if you add the render result, the raw result, coming straight out of C4D from Arnold, this is how it looks like. So you can see also the skin tones are becoming a bit more dimmed down because of subsurface scattering. So it's actually really that red, but with subsurface scattering and reflections, this will become this look here. So after a little bit of color grading, just some curves in Photoshop, this is the final result. And I think it's really nice and really spooky. A couple of other views. A bit more from the bottom, the back of the hand. I think you can also see the amazing detail that is going in there. And to give you a little overview again of what I've said, there's like a 40-second time lapse that we have prepared for you to again see how this was done. So some fun facts, just some stats for the stat nerds among us. Again, rendered in C40 R15 with the Arnold Beta plugin, coming up soon. About 90 million polygons, 500,000 hairs and fuzz, 2 minutes of preparation time, which is pretty good. The image was rendered at about 4K, 5 anti-aliasing samples, 4 GI, and 6 subsurface scattering samples, 2 GI bounces. And it rendered about 12 hours on a single machine. So, so it's a decent time, and these are the settings for the skin shader. So it actually goes down, but we don't have enough space to show you all. But feel free to email these guys if you have more questions. Again, Daniel and Phil, the guys who worked on this, so amazing work. All right, we have some more time left, and I would like to show you a third and final project and how we did it. And this is the Wacom project that we had the pleasure of working on. And Wacom has been like a very, very good client of us. Very strong relationship. I've been using their products when I was 17, I think I started as a kid, more or less. So we have a good understanding of how these products work. And I think the great privilege is if you are able to generate commercials for something you really like. A lot of passion goes in because you like the products. And who's using a Wacom tablet? That's good. Okay, so who's not using a Wacom tablet? What's wrong with you? Try it out. There's certain things you simply cannot do with a mouse. I mean, you didn't learn to draw with a brick, did you? You learned to draw with a piece of chalk or a pen. So this is a natural position. So I have this honest excitement of these products, and we all have this. And that's why we love to create trailers, and that's why a lot of passion goes into create these. So when Wacom launched this latest product called Infused Pro, we also did the Infused 5 launch video, and they asked us, oh, we like the launch video, and there's only like a minor update. A few things have been improved. The buttons are different. There's a new color scheme. So we want to keep the overall trailer, but we would like to change a few things, mainly the intro, because it's like a very open, creative thing that we can do. So they say, this is the new product. This is the tagline. How do you guys would like to showcase the strengths of this product? So we have a pretty much open brief, which is good because you can be creative, but it's also very hard because you want to do something that's good, fitting to the product, make the client happy, and everything. So we had this idea of taking the metaphor of ink and color and fluid workflow and to visualize this in the intro. So opposite to the Infused 5, the Infused Pro trailer had to feature this intro. And basically for us it was almost the same thing, but still new look, new intro, and the same fun, spiced up with a few new shots. So when we started, we pre-visualized this in Cinema 4D, and we used the Doodle tool for review and annotations. Because again, to do something like fluid simulation, and this was done with RealFlow, it's really hard to just go ahead and do a fluid simulation and ask the client like, hey, so this is what we would like. Would you like it? And if the client would say no, I don't like that, then you did all this work for nothing. So that would suck. So that's why we use the Doodle tool in combination with the rough camera animation to paint over and to show the client, well, here you would see like some liquid coming over the tablet, and this is like some smoky effect where the pen is built. So you can also use the Doodle tool for previewing, not just for annotations. So any of you who has not used the Doodle tool, I strongly recommend it. It's a very, very good workflow enhancement. So once that was approved, of course, we went ahead and did some style frames and and animations and simulations on how this can be done. So the idea was, hopefully that works. The idea was to have some smoke coming out of nowhere. Let me just show you the clips here. Take this one here. So basically, we wanted to have smoke, and this is again just a rough preview. So you have the pen as a container, and you fill in smoke, and we use Turbulence FD for this effect. And then, of course, another shot as well from a different angle. So what we did for this one is we had one simulation pass, but with different camera angles. So you can output a lot of shots, although you just have one simulation pass. And let me show you how we try to come up with the final look of it. So this is these are different tests that we did, and I think we chose the middle one. I'm not sure anymore. But these are just some tests to see how does it look like with the almost final quality. There's some little differences on especially in the timing when it hits the tips, like it comes down, hits it, and goes back up. So that was pretty fun to work with. And let me find that breakdown of different shots. So here, for example, you can see going from the wireframe pass to the simulation pass and to the final rendering. So this is just the Turbulence FD pass without the wireframe. So this was then rendered. And we rendered this with Arnold as well. Arnold Alpha, that was. Like, I think 8 months ago even. Or 9 months ago. And this is now the final look. So, what about the tablet itself? For the tablet, RealFlow was used to basically create this look. But of course, none of the tablet was visible. It was just used as a shape holder, where the liquid is spilling basically over the tablet and revealing or building the tablet while the pen is drawing these strokes. So the pen would be on this end, and it's actually drawing the tablet. So it's like a very fluid and natural, liquidy looking animation. So, again, a couple of detailed shots for your info. Rendered with Arnold, about 5 to 7 minutes per frame. Smoke with Turbulence and liquids with RealFlow. And let me show you the final results. So that basically wraps it up for me. I really hope you liked it. Thanks so much for hanging around, watching the demo.